Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tar Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
And I'm from Eros Coaching. Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha. I'm a clinical sexologist, and I'm from Eros Coaching. That's eroscoaching.com. I am a sexuality educator based in Singapore, and I am so happy, seriously, like really honored to have with me holistic sexuality teacher Sheri Winston. And she is the founder of the Center for the Intimate Arts. And why am I so honored to have her? She has published this amazing book, Women's Anatomy of Arousal, Secret Maps to Buried Pleasure. And this book won the ASAC 2010 Book of the Year. Today we'll be talking about secrets of female sexual arousal, of course. And a lot of us are interested to know about this. And what we do not know is that inch for inch, pound for pound, women have as much erectile tissue as men. And we can learn about all the parts in today's show that not even gynecologists know about, and how you can learn how to ramp up your pleasure to amazing new levels of arousal. And of course, we'll have Sheri Winston who will be sharing with us how she integrates ancient wisdom, lost knowledge, and modern sexuality information in a sexy, fun show today that illuminates every woman's secret path to fabulous, orgasmically abundant sex. So Sheri Winston is not just groundbreaking award-winning author, teacher, and coach. She offers empowering erotic education with her wide variety of transformational, inspiring, practical offerings for the general public, as well as professional trainings. And you can find her at intimateartscenter.com. That's CENTER. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. I'm really excited to have you. And it's been a long time coming. You are one of the people that I've been wanting to have on this show for a really long time because I really admire your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's jump right into this topic of the secrets of female sexual arousal. Why would you call it a secret? And you mentioned even gynecologists don't know about it. So what exactly do they not know about?
Well, let me kind of give you a little history about how I came to figure this out. My background before I was a sexuality teacher is that I'm a certified nurse midwife, gynecology practitioner, registered nurse. I was a doula, a childbirth educator, and a massage therapist. So in my professional training, I studied anatomy with a focus on female genital anatomy in my advanced training. And I was already working, this is in the 90s, I was already working as a midwife and a practitioner. And I came across this book called New View of a Woman's Body, and it had a chapter about anatomy, and it described parts that I had never heard of. And that was shocking to me. Like, how could I have not heard of vestibular bulbs? I was like, what? So I did my homework because I own the equipment personally, and I checked it out, and sure enough, I had those parts. And that started me on what I now call the hunt for buried pleasure, which is finding out what else is missing from our maps, what's not in our anatomy books, and what do our healthcare professionals and education, especially sexuality education teachers, not know? And there's some other work that people have done in this field, and I started really studying and researching and looking and putting it all together, and came up with what I think is really the first sort of complete map that includes all of the parts and how everything works together, and even an understanding of why it's the way it is, how it evolved that way, and of course how we can make it very happy. So it's just these things are starting to seep in. We're starting to get more of the parts here and there, but we're still mostly missing the whole picture of all the parts and how they operate. And so it's I'm looking forward to the day when it's not a secret. Looking forward to the day when everyone is like, oh, of course women have, vestibular bulbs and 3 parts of their clitoris and, spongy erectile tissue inside, and everybody just knows that women have, as you mentioned, just as much erectile tissue as men do, and where we all know where it is and what to do with it.
Okay.
So
yeah,
that's the story.
Thank you for sharing. And yes, I have on your profile that you've been a sexuality teacher for 15 years, and prior to that, a 25-year foundation as a nurse midwife, which you just mentioned, a gynecology practitioner, registered nurse, and massage therapist. So you have all this knowledge, and you went and got more in depth and put all this information into your book. In fact, I'm holding on to your book right now, and lots of people recommend your book because it has amazing pictures as well, and you go into quite a lot of depth about all the different parts that we don't know about, and pictures of erectile expansion as well that you just mentioned, and it's truly amazing. What are some of the feedback that you've received for your work?
Well, I mean, I've gotten a lot of feedback. I've had midwives and doctors come to my class when I've taught about this, and come up to me afterward and acknowledge that this wasn't part of their medical education. But even more significantly, I've had so many women over the years come up to me or write me letters and tell me how this was really transformational. Sometimes it's transformational because they're having sexual pleasure that they weren't able to have before. For some women, I've had some women who this helped resolve pain that they had. I had one letter from a woman that literally brought me to tears because she had never been able to have any kind of penetration without pain, whether it was at the gynecologist's office or with her male partner, and because she had never experienced full engorgement, which many women haven't, because we don't know what's there, we don't play with it, it doesn't get engorged. But now that she'd read the book and understood that, she was able to stimulate all the parts, get fully engorged, and not only have penetration with her husband, but was able to have orgasms with intercourse, and it brought tears to my eyes, that kind of letter. So I think this is profound stuff we're talking about that has so many deep effects on so many people.
Yeah, I really agree with that. In my work, I also work with lots of women who don't know about their parts down there, and it's different because ours are kind of hidden and it's not as visible, and we really need to take a mirror to look, and even then, the angles and stuff will be really uncomfortable, and I really believe that knowledge is the key to pleasure. And I also understand that you conduct a lot of workshops, and so the basis of your workshops would be based on this book?
Well, I teach this huge curriculum of courses, so it's a very wide range, but certainly some of my keystone courses are based on this understanding of anatomy, so anything that's about female orgasm or female pleasure has got this basis to it. But I think the thing here is to, acknowledge what you said was so important, which is that women's parts are hidden, and so many women and people who partner with women don't know what's there. I mean, a lot of women aren't even familiar with the most basic anatomy, the stuff that is in the books, much less this more advanced and integral understanding. And what you were saying about looking with a mirror, I think, is key. I give this home play assignment all the time when I'm teaching, that anything that has anything to do with the anatomy, which involves women going through the process of arousal, because we are looking for the erectile tissue structures. And the thing is, for most of them, if they're not engorged, you're not really going to find them. So I tell women that you need to not only look and feel, but you need to check everything out in a state of non-engorgement, not aroused. Play with the parts, stimulate them, get them engorged, and then check them out when they're in that state. And that's when you're going to really have an obvious experience of all the parts.
Beautiful. I feel that we don't come up with these ideas to look, feel, and play with our parts because it just never occurs to us. And it's great that in your work you are able to suggest this to women and transform their lives. It's really transformational. And we're going to talk more with Sheri after this break.
Sounds good.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance, Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets. We're talking about the secrets of female sexual arousal with Sheri Winston today, and she is groundbreaking award-winning author, teacher, and coach. She's published the book, Women's Anatomy to Arousal, Secret Maps to Buried Pleasure, and it was the ASAC 2010 Book of the Year. She's also published Succulent Sex Craft, Your Hands-On Guide to Erotic Play and Practice. And you can find her at intimateartscenter.com. And just before the break, we were beginning to talk about the importance of home play, looking, feeling, and playing with your pink bits. And we talked about women not having the idea to self-explore. And Sheri, I was wondering why women are hesitant, so hesitant to self-explore. What do you think are some of the possible reasons?
Well, there's a host of reasons, so it's kind of a list, really. But, I mean, first of all, I think that as women, we've gotten the message ever since we were babies and toddlers that our genitals are a territory that we're not supposed to go to. And it's very different for people who have a penis, honestly, because, we teach our little boys to pee in the toilet, right? So they have to touch themselves multiple times every day. We want them to do it. And so I think people who have a penis are much more comfortable with their genitals. They're used to touching it. They've never gotten the message that they shouldn't touch. Little girls, we really get the message, and we get it pretty hard. Don't touch, don't explore, don't go there. And a lot of young women don't even have a name for their genitals, whether it's the scientific name or even a slang name, but we just don't have words to even describe our parts. For some women, it's just like down there, just this very vague, dark, mysterious place. So, and then I think we also get a cultural message that it's our partner's job to give us pleasure. It's their job to know what to do to give us pleasure, and to help us have orgasms. And the truth is, if we want to learn to have orgasms, and most women do need to learn their path to orgasm, if we want to learn that and we want to become proficient, and we can even go on to develop mastery of that, but if we want to do that, we need to take matters into our own hands, as it were. We need to touch ourselves. We need to explore. We need to figure out what gives us pleasure. We need to learn the pathway through arousal and to orgasm. And then we can teach our partners. Then it's actually our job to let our partners know, to be good teachers of that, so our partners can help us on that path. But again, the other piece of this is we have a lot of cultural shame around self-pleasuring. What I like to call solo sex. And I don't usually use the word masturbation, because that word, masturbation, literally means, the Latin means to pollute with your hand. Right? Isn't that awful? Just awful. So solo sex, right? So that's my reframe of that. It's the wonderful, healthy relationship we have with our own sexuality, with our body, and with our genitals, and that's where we learn. And so those are all things that keep women, just shame and that mystery and not really even knowing where to start. That's another place. Some women get to the point where they're like, all right, I'm ready to start touching myself. Where do I begin? What do I do? And again, there's not a lot of guidance in our culture for how do we start? Where do we begin? So these are all things. That's a lot of things, right? Does that ring true for you, your experience?
Definitely. I love what you've just shared with us, and it's really based on a lot of truth, and also the same in my experience here in Asia. I agree with you. I think we start off being told as little girls, don't touch down there. And it's embarrassing because we're caught touching our parts in public at first as little kids. And then all that shame starts coming in, shame. And then there's all that mystery. We don't know what we don't know. And even if we want to start, we don't know how to start. We are afraid of hurting ourselves with our nails. And because we can't see, we don't know. And it really resonates with me what you're saying about we give it to our partner and it becomes their job to give us pleasure. Often I have clients who are sexually unawares, and they come in with a lot of blame and anger. Oh, he don't know how to do it. And it became his job because there's just this assumption and burden that we put onto our partners that they should know better. And it's kind of hypocritical that we want to stay pure and we want to be virgins until our marriage, wedding day. But somehow men are supposed to mysteriously know what to do. And that's really not beneficial to both genders at all.
Right, and even if we're making the choice, and this is very cultural, it's very different in different cultures, but even if we do make the choice not to be sexual with a partner until we're married, we still can be sexual with ourselves. There's nothing that says we can't self-pleasure, learn how our sexuality operates, and then when we are with a partner and we feel this is a person that we want to share our sexual experiences with, then we wouldn't be starting from not knowing anything. And of course, there's another thing, which is that I know this is a generalization, but men and women tend to operate differently. And so if we partner with men, they know how to give themselves pleasure. They've been doing that, certainly since puberty. They know what works for them, so they try and do the same thing to us. And it's kind of like playing with cats and dogs. You don't play with a cat the same way you play with a dog, right? Right? If you want somebody to fetch the ball, you want a dog, right? So our partners are doing the best they can with what they know, using what works for them. It doesn't usually work for us. And we don't know what works for us, and that just makes everybody unhappy. And there's no need for that unhappiness because all of this is learnable. We can learn what gives us pleasure. We can learn it by ourselves. We can also learn it with partners, but we have to have that mindset that we're not just going to get together and have this perfect sexual experience. We need a mindset that says, sex is something we learn about. And we can learn by ourselves, we can learn together, but it's not like we just automatically know how to do it. Right?
Yeah, I agree with you. When I've met people who are very hesitant to go into solo sex, I explain that learning about bodies actually would help us on the long run, and we're actually helping our future partners. And this is what some of the languaging that I sometimes use because, there's just so many layers of shame and mystery. So I say it as, developing neural pathways, helping your partner. At the end of the day, once you know yourself, it becomes easier for your partner. I'm curious, what would be some of the things, other things that you might say to people who are still hesitant to explore themselves?
Well, I like to use the analogy that learning to have great sex, learning to master our erotic instrument is just like a musician learning to play their instrument. And so if you think about learning to play an instrument, we all have some natural musical ability, some more, some less. But whether I learn how to play the piano or not is up to me. And if we started playing the piano, we would feel kind of awkward. We wouldn't know what to do. We have to think about what we're doing. But if we keep practicing, then we're going to start to get good at it. And the better we are at playing our own instrument, the better we are at playing solo, the better we're going to be when it comes time to play duets with a partner. And so
I love that.
Right? And you wouldn't expect a musician to learn how to play their instrument while they're playing a duet. Right? That would be way hard. Of course we're not going to be able to learn when we're playing with someone else because we have to think about them and what they're doing and are they having fun and are we doing it right? All of the issues that come up around a partner aren't there when we're playing solo. And so our solo sex is our rehearsal hall. It's where we can practice, learn our instrument, and then when we want to be with a partner, we're going to be a better partner, not just because because we're going to be more comfortable with our body, but we're going to know how to make music, right? We're going to know how our instrument works. So I use that one a lot.
I love it. I really, really, really love this analogy of playing solo versus playing duet. And love what you said. You can't be learning your instrument as you're playing it. It's very good. I'm going through your book right now. Yeah. Please go ahead.
I'll just say one other thing, which is people have this idea, some people have this idea that sex is natural, and so that we don't have to learn how to do it. And I say that's kind of like, well, knowing a language is natural, but if I wanted to learn a second language, right, I would have to do that. Musical ability and loving music is natural, but learning to play the piano is a learned skill. And sex is like that. We have this part of us that's like hardware around sex because we are animals and there's an animal reproductive template in there. But for humans, sex is about so much more than just making babies. So for us, there's this whole learned component, just like learning a language or playing an instrument or learning a sport. And so when we start thinking about that, there's so much of this that's learnable. I think that's an important reframe for people instead of feeling like there's something wrong with them, right? Because I'm sure you get this. A lot of people think, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me because I don't have orgasms, or they're not easy for me to have, or I don't for women who don't have orgasms with intercourse. Right? There's all these people walking around thinking that there's something wrong with them, instead of thinking, oh, there's stuff I haven't learned yet.
Yeah, we have a break right now, and we'll come back and talk more about secrets of female sexual arousal with Sheri after this break.
Free your mind with Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Susan Schuler.
And I'm Carrie Ann Larson.
And we are
the Psychic Angel Channelers
from Angel Talk Tuesday.
Tune in every week at 10 a.m. Eastern on OwnTimesRadio.com.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Bathe in a beautiful vibrational frequency to help you heal, expand, and remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
There is no death, only a change of worlds. Chief Seattle. Deborah Livingston is an award-winning intuitive psychic medium whose international services include mediumship, spiritual assessment, animal communication, and spiritual mentoring. She is a published author and a trained shaman. Deborah provides evidential messages from spirit and departed loved ones. Learn more at deblivemedium.com. That's DEBLIV medium.com.
What's up? This is Brad and Mike from Lincoln Park for LifeBeat, the music industry fights AIDS. Listen up. Times are tough and you get a lot of things thrown your way. If you're being pressured to have sex and you're not ready, then say no. If you're having sex, be smart and use protection. Respect yourself and protect yourself.
For more information, call the National AIDS Hotline at 1-800-342-AIDS or log on to www.lifebeat.org.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets. We're talking about the secrets of female sexual arousal with Sheri Winston. And just before the break, we were exploring all the different possible reasons why people with vulvas don't self-explore. We talked about shame, mystery, culture, don't know where to start, putting all of it onto our partners, and we use some analogies to describe the importance of solo sex. And I would really like that, Sheri, if you can, to explain a little bit more about erectile network.
I would love to. So this is kind of the key to understanding the parts of the body for people who have this equipment. So we all know about the part that people call the clitoris. That's actually the head of the clitoris. The clitoris has 3 parts. So the head of the clitoris, which is an amazing part, and it's very key for most women's arousal, but we can think of that as sort of the jewel in the crown in that whole circuit of erectile tissue. The clitoris also has a shaft, which is underneath the hood, and then the shaft branches into 2 legs, and they're about 3 inches long, and they literally run like a wishbone along the bony arch of the pubis. So that's the 3 parts of the clitoris. We've also got the vestibular bulbs. I mentioned them before, and those are 2 big, juicy, sort of teardrop-shaped wads of erectile tissue. The fat part is on either side of the vaginal opening. So this would be, under the skin, under the outer layer of muscle. And then there's these nice big bulbs. And the top of the bulbs actually connect to the shaft of the clitoris. So the bulbs are a wonderful place to start when you are stimulating the genitals. You can get to them sort of from the outside of the outer lips. And when you play with them, they're going to get big and puffy. If you don't play with them, they don't get big and puffy, and that's kind of one of the keys here to the female erectile network. If we think about a penis is kind of an all-or-nothing system. You can't really have the head of the penis be hard and the shaft of the penis be soft, right? The whole thing's hard or the whole thing is semi-hard, but it kind of works as a unit. But with the female erectile network, we can get some of the structures stimulated and engorged and other structures not stimulated at all, and then they stay kind of flaccid. So so we have the bulbs, we have the 3 parts of the clitoris, and then we've also got 2 more areas of erectile tissue that are more inside the body. We have the perineal sponge, which is a wad of erectile tissue that's under the floor of the vagina. And that's usually about you usually have to put your thumb inside and push down, and you might have to put your thumb in, up to your knuckle or maybe even a little farther inside to find it. And that erectile tissue is actually in the wall between the vaginal and anal canals. And then the last wonderful erectile structure we have is the urethral sponge. And the urethral sponge is a tube of erectile tissue that surrounds the tube of the urethra. So this is above the top of the vagina, and the bottom of that structure is what people are talking about when they talk about the G-spot. So just to be clear, there isn't actually a structure called the G-spot, but there is the bottom of this tube of erectile tissue. So if we can, this is why I drew all those pictures for my book so that people could actually really see and envision this. And there's also some pictures on my website. So if people go there, they can read blog posts that I write about this structure. So they can. For some people, it's easier to visualize when you see a drawing. But if you kind of envision that we've got these erectile tissues, structures. And if they all get engorged, it's as if we've created this circuit, these sort of multiple overlapping, interlocking, cuffs.
Mm-hmm. Hello? You got cut off.
Yes? Oh. Got me now?
Yeah, we lost you for a while. Yeah. Please continue.
Okay, well, when we get into a state of deep arousal and we get all of those structures engorged, that's when we're going to have the best arousal, the most pleasure. That's when we're most likely to be orgasmic or multi-orgasmic. But if we don't get all the structures engorged, we don't get that effect of that circuit, that connected circuit of erectile structures. Does that make sense?
Yes. I love what you're sharing. Yeah. So this is all the different. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say we can find pretty much all of these structures. So when you do your home play assignment, probably people didn't know they were going to get an assignment from this podcast. But if you own this equipment, you can find all of those structures. And if you don't own this equipment, you'll need a lab partner to do your home play assignment with, but you could find these structures on another person, a vulva owner's body, if they're up for the game with you. So it's not even that you need to sort of believe me that all these structures exist. You can become your own expert. You can go check it out on yourself, or if you have a female partner, and find everything I'm talking about.
Beautiful. So I love your description of the clitoris, the vestibular bulb, the perineal sponge, the urethral sponge. And could you elaborate a little bit? You already mentioned the urethral sponge being the where people think is the G-spot or synonymous with the G-spot. What about female ejaculation?
Well, so I believe, first of all, that female ejaculation is the production of fluid from glands that reside in the urethral sponge. So if we go back to our image, the urethra, that's the pee tube that goes from the bladder to the pee hole. So the urethra is surrounded by this erectile cylinder. You know, you can think of it like a roll of paper towels. The urethra is the cardboard tube in the center, and the paper towels are the erectile tissue. And when it's not engorged, it's like you're at the end of the roll of paper towels, and when it's really engorged, it's like you've got a brand new jumbo roll of paper towels. Now, within that erectile tissue, that would be the paper towel part, within there are little tiny glandular structures. And those glands empty into the urethra. And so I believe those glands make fluid. The more engorged we become, the more engorged we are, the more blood there is in the erectile tissue, the more fluid the glands will make. These glands in textbooks are called the Skene's glands, which I know that you know. Most people won't know that, but that means they're actually named after the man who discovered them, so I don't like to call them that.
I see.
Because that's sort of honoring somebody who was really not worth honoring, because he did awful experiments on women to discover these parts. But anyway, we could call them the paraurethral glands, which would describe where they are without honoring somebody who doesn't deserve to be honored. Anyway, so these glands make fluid. And I believe that all women, when we get aroused, make at least a tiny bit of fluid in these glands. But when we get lots of engorgement to the urethral sponge, we make more fluid, and we can learn to release that fluid with orgasm. And when we do, it feels really amazing. There are some women who are what I call natural ejaculators, that they make a lot of fluid. It gushes out sometimes before orgasm, sometimes with. Some women find that stimulating the structure will produce fluid, but if you don't do it at the same time as orgasm, you don't get that intensity of experience. But I do believe all women can learn this. And I'll just add that I didn't learn to do this myself until I was in my early 40s. And it was only after I heard that it was possible to learn it that I started going, oh, this is learnable. So we're back to that learnable idea. But I have to tell you, because I know part of what you talk about on this show is spirituality, that for me, having ejaculatory orgasms is an intensely emotional, physical, and spiritual orgasm. And I don't know any other way to say it, just that it feels like I am a goddess at that moment. And that this fluid was considered sacred in a number of traditional cultures, so it makes sense to me. So that's the sort of little mini female ejaculation course.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So as somebody who probably only has had one female ejaculation experience, you mentioned it being intense, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Could you, if you possibly can, describe a little bit more how that felt like?
Well, it's like an amplification of orgasm. So it feels to me like my orgasm isn't just genitally focused, but more of a whole body experience. And I just feel like a goddess, like my divine, wild, sexual goddess nature is being released in this flooding the liquid that comes out. And in Tantra, they call it Amrita, the nectar of life. And in traditional Chinese medicine, they call it white moonflower medicine. So I believe there's both a spiritual and also a healing capacity from this experience. I actually think the fluid is probably antimicrobial and protects us from urinary tract infections. So there's that as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So we have a break, and we'll come back and wrap up the show. And can't wait to ask Sheri more.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting with your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, we help you to connect with that you are and tap into that innate potential you have to transform your life and fly high. Please join me, your host Monica Goyal, every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific. Namaste.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility. It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
And this is the last 15 minutes of today's show, and I want to make sure you get this. So Sheri is sharing with us her freebie, her free online class, Pussies and Poppy School of Love. And the link is tinyurl, one word, .com/Sheri Winston. That's SheriWinston. And if you want more freebies, definitely go to her website. That's Intimate Arts Center. with er.com, and you'll find the ability to subscribe to her e-newsletter and also sign up for her online classes, in-person classes, her books, her survey, her shop, her freebies. So more freebies at her website. So definitely go to her website. If you liked today's show, actually I also subscribe to her. So if you like today's show and you want to learn more and you want to have access to her freebies, I strongly recommend that you do so. And let me go into this again. So remember that earlier in the show we talked about Sheri being the author of award-winning book Woman's Anatomy of Arousal and also Succulent Sex Craft. She is a 15-year in practice sexuality teacher, and she has 25 years of foundation as a nurse, midwife, gynecology practitioner, registered nurse, and massage therapist. And she's been doing groundbreaking work for a very long time. I'm so honored to have her on today's show. So I have this very pressing question because it does come up for me in my work, Sheri, and that is, you mentioned all the erectile tissue and all the different parts, and you were emphasizing on the importance of engorgement and arousal. And it is possible when the person with the vulva is fully aroused, that's when her paraurethral glands would produce the fluid and more fluid and more likely for her to have female ejaculation. So what happens for those women who don't have that experience, don't have a lot of arousal before penetration? I assume that there would be pain, and could you elaborate on your experience of that?
I would love to. So this is one of my little missions, and I call it like ending premature penetration. So I think what happens is for those of us with a vulva, if we partner with somebody with a penis, they're ready to get to penetration. They're erect and they're ready to go in. And we don't know any better, and we want to be nice and we want to be good partners, so we let them do that. Not because, they're bad or we're bad or anything. We just don't know better. So I like to encourage people to wait until the woman is in a deep state of arousal and all of her parts are engorged. And when everything is engorged, then it feels amazing. It feels wonderful to have penetration. But if you're experiencing penetration and it doesn't feel wonderful, you're not aroused enough. You're not engorged enough. And so really to kind of use that as you tune into your own pleasure. And then we can teach, if we partner with men, we can teach them not to enter before we're ready. And so we have to take responsibility for that. That we're often kind of accommodating, but then nobody's having the best possible sex. If we wait until we're really ready and penetration feels amazing, then intercourse feels great, and then everybody's having a good time. And so it's kind of enlightened self-interest. It's about making sure we're going to have an amazing time, and then also because intercourse isn't painful or just, not great, we're going to want to do it more often, right? We're going to be up for sex more often if we're having amazing pleasure. And so I think it's in everybody's interest to end premature penetration, learn about the erectile network, learn what it feels like to get all the parts stimulated, how good it feels, and then really learn how to tune in and figure out when you're ready to have penetration. And when I work with heterosexual couples, sometimes I'll say to the guy, I'll say, in fact, don't even enter her when she's like, okay, I'm ready. Wait until she's begging. Wait until she's like, please, please, right? Enter me. And that's when she's actually really ready. So, if she's just like, yeah, sure, it's okay, fine, she's not ready yet. And so I think it's a good rule of thumb for those of us who have vulvas, though, to be really good, what I call, be a good guardian of your gate, and make that commitment to yourself that we're not going to engage in any activities that don't feel wonderfully pleasurable. We're going to make the commitment to learn what it is we want and need and learn how to communicate that, and then teach our partners, in a loving way, teach them what it is we want and need. And then, for men who partner with women, it really behooves you to learn all of these things, to learn what full female arousal is like, what full engorgement is, so you can help your partner get to that point, and she will be abundantly grateful. And that's a good thing, right? That's what creates generosity between partners, when everyone's feeling really like, oh, yes, you've given me so much pleasure, I want to give you so much pleasure. And then we have this wonderful accelerating pleasure spiral. And we can get there. It's just all learnable skills.
I love what you're sharing with us here, talking about the importance of being guardian of your gate and explaining about premature penetration. What about pain? I personally believe that if the person with the vulva is being penetrated before she's ready, then there's pain and possibly trauma that might cause the vaginal muscles to become maybe hardened and maybe numb and maybe numb. What do you feel about that?
Our bodies have this intelligence to them. So if we are allowing penetration and it's not feeling great, our body will kind of take over and go okay, well, then I'm going to give you pain, right? I'm going to give you the message that this isn't a good idea, or the muscles can go into spasm. So it really is in our best interest to listen to what our body is saying. And I'll also say that if someone's had trauma, especially sexual trauma, at some time in the past, we can kind of numb our genitals out, or we can get areas of our genitals that become very painful, because I really think trauma tends to kind of live in the body. And then there's a variety of somatic, mind-body ways of healing that. But we also need to be aware that if there is pain, it might be your body responding to some other kind of experience that happened in the past. And there are also ways to learn about that and heal that. And we need to be sensitive to how many people have had trauma and sexual trauma, and in particular people with vulvas who are more likely to have experienced that than not, unfortunately. So we need to be sensitive to that. Might be what's going on. Really, to listen to the intelligence of the body in this. And then do something about it. Don't just feel like, well, that's it, I'm stuck with, pain with intercourse, or, it's never going to be pleasurable because everything's numb. Remember, you're not broken. There's stuff that you can learn. There's ways to heal. So you aren't stuck with anything. But whatever you've got, there's something you can do about it to get to pleasure, and that is we all were born hardwired for pleasure and ecstasy, so it's in all of us.
Thank you so much, and I really, really appreciate your work and acknowledge you, and I love your book, and I definitely want all listeners to go to your website. That's Intimate Arts Center, and remember, there's a special freebie that she has for all of you out there. That's tinyurl.com/Sheri Winston. You will get her free online class, Pussies and Poppies, School of Love, and you can also get more freebies on her website. I definitely recommend that you subscribe to her mailing list. I love her work, and I am sure you love her work as well. It's been so beneficial and useful for me even today. I've learned new things from you, and I really appreciate you once again. So thank you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you. And next week, what we're going to have my new friend, Prescott Gaylord, and basically he just moved to Singapore 3 months ago, and he is an improv comedian and host of the show